The upper part, the part which is above the earth, cannot subsist without that interchange between that its counterpart below the plane of zero curvature, practically, which is underneath the earth, which we call its roots. They interchange so that the nourishment of one can, and one gives to the other, and they each give to each other, and you breathe out into space, and which is the other side of your curved equator, because around you constantly are these spherical layers of equal potential. You breathe out into them. You discharge your body and you charge space, and then you breathe back again, and you can't live unless you do that. You have to interchange always with that which is on the other side of the equator. You're surrounded. You're surrounded by the equipotential curved equators, and you're divided from your plane of zero curvature equator by your own roots. You must understand what I mean. Even if there are animals and people walking around, their roots, they're just the same. They cannot subsist, live without the sustenance to come out from the earth. And everything that is born of the earth is born with its roots extending under the earth. And that means animal, mineral, and vegetable. It means animal and vegetable, and no matter what it is, it grows and expresses life. It grows from the earth outward, and its roots are underneath the earth. And I explained to the class here one day that any animal life that is born of the womb of a mother, the womb of the mother nourishes the body for a certain period of time through what is known as the placenta, until the child is born. The placenta is then no use. Now that placenta is the temporary roots of the human being. It is underground. It is always underground because the mother has to take food from underground to make that placenta. That's the roots of a living animal that is born without roots, an animal that can locomote itself. Now let's see them. Will you speak of the cube and the sphere? Now, what? Oh, is that sufficient for you? All right, because the cube and the sphere are the basic and fundamentals from which an appearance and disappearance take place. And the appearance taking place from any one point is repeated everywhere. If a good illustration of that is this. Supposing you appear as light and as an invisible point without a body here, and then say your desire to appear, and you breathe out, but now you keep your breath surrounded by a balloon, for instance. You fill that balloon with your breath, and the next one and the next one of the harmonics does likewise. All breathe out, and they fill little balloons with them, and finally pretty soon those balloons touch each other on 6 sides. Well, they keep breathing out, then they've got to expand. There's no place to go except to the corners of cubes. So all space is filled with the expansion of the decentrated force of nature. All space. And so a cube is the all of space, and that's the limit you can go. If you fill those balloons with all the air that you can compress in them, you couldn't possibly get any more in them. They'd explode. And so then when you retract, you let the air all out, and you breathe it into you again to disappear. The cubes have disappeared. The zero condition takes away from them. Will you speak on cosmic ray? And another question, what is the secret of the 30 octaves between sound and light? 30 octaves between sound and light.
What does science mean by that?
Does science say?
Yes. There are 30 octaves that non-plus the scientists between sound and light. What is
it? You go ask them. I don't know. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. There aren't any octaves in nature in excess of the 9 octaves of nature. And between light and sound, they are the same things. The light is produced by compression, and it's at the maximum of its wave, it produces a sphere. And sound is produced in the same way, by producing a wave vibration. And at the amplitude, you produce the sound that is desired. No other place upon it, except that just one little point on the wire that is vibrating of a violin string or a harp. Just one point that you hear the completed sound. All the way up to that you hear a siren sort of growing up to it. If you could delay that sound instead of hearing it in 1,000th of a second, if you could spread it out over a minute, you'd hear just this sound, siren growing until suddenly the keynote, the A or the B or the C note is produced. Same thing with the sun. We have all of the gases and the other elements that are the rings that are being wound up through the boom till suddenly zing in the sky you see the sun. The rings have all been pulled up into the sun. The siren sound of the light that is accumulating has taken place in an incandescent sun. And that incandescent sun is exactly synonymous with the A-string sound of a harp, excepting the difference in its characteristics. The sound, the A-string on the harp is not so hot, but it's hot. It's an intense temperature right there, caused by the multiplication of vibration all the way up that harp string. That's the hottest point there is in that vicinity. And there's not incandescence there for the same reason, that potential isn't high enough. But the A string that's on the cosmic harp, that's struck by the vibration that produces the sun, is merely a multiplication of that same wave that produced the sound of the A string of the harp. Nature has not two different ways of creating anything. Created only by waves. There is nothing in the nature but waves of motion. Waves multiply in the direction of their amplitudes, and they divide on the way down, back to silence of the zero from which it came. That's life and death, and the resurrection on the other side of the equator, when the same A note of the harp string reproduces itself again as another A note. They're so fast we think of them as continuous, because they're so fast. But there's a black gap of silence between each one of those. Every time it passes the zero point of plane of silence from which it has appeared, it is silent again. Then it appears on the other side, the same siren sound accumulate, multiply into the A tone of that you're after. So it is resolved. The sun dies in the same way, but it depolarizes itself down to the zero of its own plane of zero curvature, reproduces itself in the black hole of space on the other, that's all been waiting for it. So the sun cannot create itself as a single individual. It's multiplied into a duration of billions of years of time without that elastic band on the other side of the hitching post of gravity. And there's another elastic band on the other side pulling it back. It's drawn away, extended as far away as it can. The energy borrowed to extend it is expended. And when it's expended, it has to return what it is borrowed. So there are only the 8 octaves. Will you speak of the cosmic ray? I had promised that I would do that in this lecture, and which extended to too much time. That's a subject that needs very much of a build-up. Needs a build-up of a whole lecture. How can I put that into a few words? Well, I think I can. Let these represent different bodies in space. Let us say this is the Earth over here and this is the Sun. Every one of these bodies in space is in absolute balance with every other body. That balance cannot vary even by 1/1,000,000 of a milligram anywhere in the entirety of the whole universe. Its balance is so perfect that the slightest unbalance is going to be remedied at once, remedied before it began. And so, that everywhere in space, wherever there are bodies in space, they're interchanging their potentials with each other to keep that balance. The radiation of one body reaches out and strikes every other body. We're familiar with the radiation of the sun, but we're not familiar with the countless other means of adjusting the balance of the universe until they get down to such a fine point that which we call the cosmic ray is one of the generators of nature, which is keeping this earth and other things in balance. Now, everything that approaches the earth generates the earth. That is, it adds to its life duration. It charges the earth with its potential. And when there is an overcharge of the earth by an excessive radiation from the sun, such as I described in the lecture yesterday, coming from sunspots, there's an equivalent discharge of the earth to keep that in balance. Now, everything that approaches the earth to charge it, that we call sun rays or any other kind of rays, arrives in particles, corpuscles. Sunlight rays do not just come down upon the earth as what you might imagine as sun rays. They come down in elliptical bodies, all centripetal. As I've explained to you, they must change their direction, and as they are coming radially toward the center of gravity, they are multiplying their force. They are doing this as the sun ray is coming here. Let's imagine this is just a little particle of the sun ray that's coming down. It's doing this.